Good evening, everyone. My name is Marsha Levy, and I'm the Executive Director of Volunteers of Legal Service, also known as Vols. Several months ago, before COVID-19, Vols, along with other legal service organizations, participated in a community listening meeting in the Bronx, the purpose of which was to find out what the community leaders would say were the greatest issues facing their constituents. The first local leader to testify said that the greatest challenge to the community was the high rents for local businesses that were pushing them out, the impact on the community of losing mom and pop stores, and the impact on the individual owner. She declared, "We need help. Who can help these businesses?" I raised my hand. I described how Vols Micro Enterprise Project helps small businesses with formative, contractual, and IP issues, and that our commercial lease assistance program helps keep businesses in place by negotiating with their landlords. If that meeting was held today remotely, I talk about co-founding with Strzok, the Small Business Legal Relief Alliance program, and the 6 legal service organizations and 25 law firms and companies who together have represented 300 small businesses. Those of you at home, raise your hand if you or your firm, your company, has provided pro bono assistance to a small business owner. The next community leader to testify declared that his biggest concern was for the elderly population in his community, housing issues, legal status, health-related. How do we help? I raised my hand. I described how Vols has an elder law project that works with senior centers and other community-based organizations to provide staff training and clinics to identify elders who need life planning documents and other assistance. Often these encounters are with veterans in our Veterans Initiative and their specific legal issues that they face. If it was today, I would describe how we work remotely with elders through our partnerships with these very same organizations. And I'd proudly talk about our Frontline and Healthcare Workers Initiative, while not limited to elderly, utilizes our expertise in life planning on behalf of the members of DC 37 with Lawyers for Good Government Foundation, Kirkland & Ellis, and 18 other law firms, giving peace of mind as well as legal help to those literally facing death by going to work. Raise your hand if you have helped an elder New Yorker or a frontline worker. So you know what I'm going to say next. The next person to testify talked about the immigration issues facing the community and who can help. And I sheepishly raised my hand. Vols Immigration Project works with immigrant youth to assist them in a variety of ways to find a path to legal status. And now, of course, immigrants are at risk of poor health outcomes and in fear of getting medical help, and our many low-wage worker immigrant clients have lost their jobs and have been assisted by our Unemployed Workers Project as well. Raise your hand if your firm or company has conducted a DACA clinic and feels so excited right now about the Supreme Court decision on DACA, has handled a SIJ matter, or done an unemployment matter with Vols. Vols has been nimble in this crisis, doing the work we always do, figuring out how to do it remotely, creating new projects, and even hotlines to serve the community. For those listening who don't know, you'll learn later that Vols was formed in crisis, the cuts to legal services in 1984. Visionary leaders of the New York City Bar and 50 law firms and companies, many of you listening tonight, came up with a concept that seems so obvious. If pro bono volunteers could be partnered with legal service organizations, the impact on access to justice could be multiplied. That is the Vols model. Think of us as an airplane. Vols staff of 19 is the body of the plane with 210 community organizations, one wing, 60 law firms and companies the other, enabling us to be nimble and responsive. Now more than ever as a legal community, we need to be raising our hands. In a COVID-19 world, we have seen the disparate impact of the pandemic on communities of color and the economically disadvantaged. The racial and social disparities are more in our conscious as we watch the murder of George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, Ahmaud Arbery, and the protests and the treatment that followed. Opportunities come out of crisis, and this is a time for the legal community to be thought leaders and to act. In acting, I call on you to raise your hand, whether as a legal observer, a mass defense attorney, or bringing civil rights cases. And remember that the issues of inequality and disparate treatment are systemic for our legal service clients, whether those who are incarcerated and separated from their children, housing issues that impact low-income elderly, small business owners facing commercial lease negotiations when they're not even in their business, healthcare workers, immigrants. Raise your hand to join with us now more than ever to provide representation to low-income New Yorkers. On the broader issues facing us as a legal community, I'm proud that on June 4th and 11th, we hosted a leadership summit aligning pro bono and DEI initiatives to better serve communities. It was a provocative conversation that challenged us all to do a better job of working together to address disparities within our own organizations and to be culturally humble as we work with our client communities. Please take the time to go to our website and see the recordings, and I'll give you some ideas for action steps as we go forward. Tonight, in recognition of Vols' birth 35 years ago, and by the way, it's my birthday too. We'll just pretend it was also 35 years ago. We're going to honor and have a timely conversation about leadership in pro bono with three amazing women: Sheila Boston, Kate Oberlies O'Leary, and Bettina Plevin, also known as Betsy. In addition, we'll be giving our Lifetime Service Award to John Kiernan and our new Lead Award to Brenna Devaney. We're really excited to be having this evening and to be spending it with all of you. And now I would like to turn the event over to Karen Arts Ash, who is our board chair, committed to pro bono, and truly a leading woman in her field and in service to the public. Karen, I give this over to you. And while I do, I thank all of our board for being so wonderful and so dedicated to Vols. Thank you.
I have had the pleasure and distinct honor of serving on the VOLS board for 18 years, most recently in the last 2 years as its chair. It is incredibly fulfilling for me to wake up every day and to work with people who devote their daily lives to improving the lives of others, to bettering the plights of others less fortunate, people who continue to make their contributions. I am so proud today to introduce and make a presentation to Chief Judge Janet Difiore, who has devoted her career to public service.
Thank you, Karen, for your kind introduction and for your service as chair of the Board of Directors, which does an excellent job of supporting the mission here at Volunteers of Legal Service. I also want to thank Marsha Levy for extending the invitation to be a part of this historic 35th anniversary, which of course was originally scheduled to take place in March to coincide with Women's History Month and the 100th anniversary of the 19th Amendment, but now we have the opportunity to celebrate virtually as part of the new normal brought on by COVID-19 and our new public health protocols. Vols was established in response to crisis, when federal spending cuts in the mid-'80s dramatically increased the demand for civil legal services, and Lou Craco, then the New York City Bar Association president, issued a call to action. And that call to action resulted in the creation of this remarkable network of law firms and corporate legal departments dedicated to providing free legal services in New York City's underserved communities. And now here we are, 35 years later, faced with a most urgent crisis, a crisis that calls for the mobilization of all of our pro bono resources to meet the enormous demand in legal services created by a pandemic that has caused untold job loss and severe economic damage to countless folks living throughout the many communities served by this organization. We are proud to see Vols at the forefront of the response from our legal profession and providing a lifeline to justice for New Yorkers harmed by the fallout from COVID-19, and that includes tenants, immigrants, healthcare and frontline workers, and struggling owners of small businesses. Few things could equal the pride and satisfaction of seeing New York's lawyers rise once again, as they did following 9/11 and Superstorm Sandy, to the challenge of providing legal services and assistance to individuals in need. And please permit me to commend you on the 5 individuals you have so wisely chosen to honor for their service and celebrate tonight. Sheila Boston, Bettina Plevin, and Kate O'Leary, your extraordinary women leaders in pro bono. John Kiernan, who certainly deserves your Lifetime Service Award, and Brenna Devaney, the recipient of your prestigious Lead Award. These 5 honorees are wonderful models of leadership and service and what it means to work to promote the public good. Each one of them has made signature contributions to our profession while demonstrating an extraordinary personal commitment to expanding access to justice for the most vulnerable individuals in our society. And not only do we thank them for their service, but we will continue to rely on their kind and their brand of leadership, because we know that this is most certainly the time to redouble our efforts in order to meet the enormous legal needs we know lie ahead, created by the dramatic impact this pandemic has had across our communities. So in closing, let me simply say how grateful and proud we are of the work that is being done by and through volunteers of legal service, and that all of us in the unified court system congratulate you on this milestone anniversary. We wish you another fantastic 35 years of service.
Hello, my name is Evia Cardozo, and I am a senior staff attorney at the Vols Microenterprise Project. Since its inception, the Microenterprise Project has provided a wide range of transactional legal services to under-resourced small business owners in New York City. Beginning in 2018, our project has been contracted by the city's commercial lease program, also known as the CLA program, to provide in-house and pro bono assistance to commercial tenants who otherwise cannot afford legal representation. The services we provide under this program include lease reviews, new lease negotiations, and dispute resolution with commercial landlords to avoid litigation and eviction. 99% of the small business owners we serve are lower income, 75% are people of color, 64% are immigrants, and 33% speak a primary language other than English. Now, more than ever, small businesses need legal support to help them respond to and survive the devastating impact of this current pandemic. Since the outbreak of COVID-19, the CLA program has seen a tenfold increase in requests for assistance, far exceeding the program's capacity. To respond to this crisis and meet this high demand, our project helped form a rapid response referral program with our pro bono network throughout the city, known as the Small Business Legal Relief Alliance, so that small businesses can obtain the legal advice they need right now. We're seeing issues related to their commercial lease obligations, business insurance policies, labor and employment issues, financial assistance applications and programs, among others. In many ways, this alliance, along with the CLA program, has been a safety net for small businesses who otherwise cannot afford professional advice from lawyers or financial professionals. Now you'll be hearing from our clients' perspectives on the impact of COVID-19 on small businesses and the support they've been receiving. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Ramona, and I'm a social entrepreneur based in the Bronx. I am the founder of Ojalá Threads. Ojalá Threads creates baby bodysuits inspired by Hispanic heritage. Today we're joined by our Diosa Luna, or Goddess of the Moon design, which is inspired by the Taino people of the Dominican Republic, where my family comes from. I decided to launch Ojalá Threads because I was inspired by my nephew to create bodysuits and gift items that would reflect Hispanic culture, our history, and our complexities. When I launched this company back in 2017, I was unable to afford legal support services. I was referred to the Volunteer Legal Services of New York by a SCORE mentor, as I wanted to decide if I would launch as a LLC or an S Corp. I was matched with Arnold and Porter, who helped me eventually establish the company as an S Corp, also helped me develop some agreements for my social media campaign, our crowdfunding campaign, and has also prepared me for our trademark process. I depend fully on public assistance with an allowance of $198 a month. And until I am approved for disability, which has been a 4-year waiting period, it is really difficult for me to be able to afford things like legal support, paid advertising, and even being able to trademark. But being able to prepare these things with Arnold and Porter prepared me and prepared my company, Ojalá Threads, to be sustainable and to last. We're really grateful for the support that we got. And I encourage all of you to keep supporting Volunteer Legal Services of New York, as I know that without them, I would not have been able to start my company off on the right foot.
Hi, I'm Aisha Saeed, CEO and Creative Director of Aisha New York. We're a fashion lifestyle brand. We dress extraordinary women who are looking for an edge in their wardrobe. We style women in clothing so they stand out and make an impact. The first 2 months of this year were 2 of our best months in terms of sales. But in March, COVID-19 came to town and our sales dropped dramatically. Since then, for past 3 months, I've been on an emotional roller coaster ride that I'm not sure when it's going to end. During these extremely difficult times, I felt lost and helpless. Being a CEO of a company, having to admit this does not come easily, but it's the truth. So when I got in touch with Vols, I felt such a sense of relief. They offered me various resources, got me in touch with Commercial Lease Assistance Program. CLA reviewed my lease, highlighted my option, helped me understand the law and my rights. While we're still in the middle of a pandemic, I am totally committed more than ever to rebuild Aisha New York so we come out stronger than before. I'm so excited to share. We recently designed a new product, 123 accessory kit. It consists of a hair scarf, a mask, and a pair of earrings. I'm so proud to share this kit was designed and sourced in line with Aisha New York values. That is to work with other small businesses, local artisans, and female entrepreneurs. Sale of each kit will not only help us, but it would also help 3 other small businesses in New York keep their lights on. And that's something I'm extremely proud of. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to tell my story. I am so grateful that organizations like Vols exist. You're truly making a difference, and please don't stop. We need you more than ever. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Cynthia Bookhart-Adams, in-house counsel at Jeffries LLC and a proud member of the Vols Board of Directors. I am so excited to invite you to join me for a giving challenge this evening to honor the amazing work of Vols and to ensure that the organization's future efforts are strongly funded. I'd like to share with you that a few weeks ago, my company held a global COVID relief charity day and giving challenge in memory of our former CFO, who sadly lost his life to COVID-19. 100% of the almost $10 million raised went to 85 charities, including Vols, which received a grant of $100,000 for its work supporting workers on the front lines and unemployed New Yorkers. The significance of that gift was not its size, but its intention to honor the lives of individuals impacted by COVID-19, be they patients, frontline workers, or displaced employees. Similarly tonight, regardless of the size of your gift, each of you watching has an opportunity to honor the intention of Vols to continue serving fellow New Yorkers impacted by COVID-19 and all of the other legal issues Vols so valiantly tackles for families, elders, veterans, immigrants, incarcerated mothers, and entrepreneurs. Vols' internal goal is to match this $100,000 grant between now and August, the end of their quarter. So how far can we get them tonight? This is where we all move from spectator-only mode in this virtual setting to live audience interaction, thanks to the genius of our Fundometer technology. Let's take out our phones right now to honor Vols and the clients it serves each and every day by accepting this giving challenge. If you're watching this from your phone, you can still use your text function, or at 7:30, go to the Vols website to donate at volsprobono.org. Here are the instructions. Simply text 970-840-9000. That's 970-840-9000. Enter Vols space and the amount of your contribution in whatever amount you wish. Include your name or the word anonymous if you prefer. Now, just hit send. It's as simple as that. I've already pledged, and I challenge as many of you as possible to match or best my $5,000 personal pledge tonight. But any amount is welcome because the goal is 100% audience participation. I'm going to give you a minute, hoping you're with me. Let's see if it worked. This is so exciting. We have donations already. Thank you so much. The Fundameter will stay open throughout the evening. We thank you so much for your support of Vols. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. It gives me great pleasure to present the Vols Lead Award for Leadership, Excellence, and Dedication to Pro Bono to my dear friend, Brenna Devaney, Director of Pro Bono Programs and Pro Bono Counsel at Skadden. I am Pro Bono Lead Counsel at Morgan Stanley, where, among other things, I run our Pro Bono legal program. Despite having a legal department the size of a large law firm, Morgan Stanley has not always had a Pro Bono program. 7 years ago, when we first started out, Brenna was one of my very first calls. I knew that we needed help, and I knew that I could count on Brenna to provide precisely the kind of sage and candid advice we needed at the time. And I was right. With her help, we successfully launched Morgan Stanley's Pro Bono program, and since then, over 100 attorneys across the globe have provided thousands of hours of pro bono service as part of our small attempt to bridge the justice gap that exists globally. At the time, Brenna was chairing the City Bar's Pro Bono Committee, and after her term as chair ended, we began co-chairing the in-house subcommittee, and together we hosted several summits and workshops, usually graciously hosted by Skadden, with in-house pro bono leaders to share ideas and best practices. More recently, she helped me and others in the corporate legal world navigate a path and ways to involve in-house legal departments eager, perhaps overly eager, to provide pro bono service in the wake of the COVID-19 pandemic. Her patience, guidance, and well-known sense of humor at that time were so appreciated, especially under the circumstances. Not only is Brenna a great collaborator, she is a true pro bono champion. She runs Skadden's premier pro bono program, and she has her own pro bono practice. She has been a leader in the Association of Pro Bono Counsel and has been honored by the City Bar Justice Center, Volunteer Lawyers for the Arts, the Legal Aid Society, Sanctuary for Families, and the Family Court Volunteer Attorney Program. Brenna also is an adjunct professor at the University of Michigan Law School and Northwestern Law School, and lectures and presents at national and international conferences focusing on access to justice. And she does all this while remaining devoted to her family and active in her community. I can think of no one more deserving of this honor. Congratulations, Brenna.
Hi, I'm Brenna. I'd like to do two things with my time here tonight. I'd like to give some thanks and get you to do some pro bono work. First, the thanks. Thank you to Erin, my dear friend, for presenting me with this award. Erin is not only an incredible friend, but she's my partner in getting things done. Thank you, of course, to my co-honorees who are astounding, amazing, and incredible in their work. Thank you to the Vols board for creating the LEAD Award. I'll have a long list of nominees for you to consider next year from the ranks of the Association of Pro Bono Counsel and in-house legal departments. Thank you to the Vols staff and attorneys who make doing pro bono possible in a safe and responsible way. And thank you to all of you who are listening in tonight. Supporting Vols right now is the right thing to do. Thank you to Bob Sheehan, a longtime Vols board member and also a champion of my career and a dear friend who clued me in very early on to the fact that Vols was an organization that I needed to be involved with, and to Boris Berstian, who's taken on Bob's role on the board, a very lucky catch for Vols. Thank you, absolutely, to my firm, Skadden, to our pro bono team, and to our volunteers who make good on our promise that pro bono is the responsibility of every single lawyer. And thank you to Eric Friedman for leading our firm in that effort. Of course, the biggest thanks to Marsha Levy for her over a decade of mentorship to me, which has been generous and graceful and important, and for her leadership of Vols, and for thinking that I was worthy of this honor. And of course, thank you to my 4 children, Owen, Noah, Grayson, and Rosie, and my husband, David, for caring about my work and for making the world a kinder place. So every time I have the chance to have people listen to me about why they should give of their time and their service and their skills, I think about what's the most important thing you could hear from me right now. Here's where I am on that. We are in an extraordinary moment. We are in an extraordinary moment of possibility. We got here through tremendous pain and quite a lot of bravery. This is a moment where lawyers have to dig into their responsibility and where all of us have to dig into our humanity. But let me be clear, we are not in an extraordinary moment because the world has never seen horrifying disease. And we're certainly not in this moment because racism is new. However, we are in a moment where we are all aware that we are long overdue to make good on the notion that the moral arc of the universe needs to bend toward justice, and that the scales of justice are tipping in the right direction. And they're tipping because of the gravity of the protesters and the people who are raising their voices and telling us, now is the time we must do the right thing. What you do matters. Pro bono matters, the law matters, Vols matters, and now is the time to collaborate, to do work that addresses the symptoms and manifestations of racism, and also to get at its roots. Now is the time to collaborate, to do work to help underserved communities and individuals who are struggling with the immediate and ripple effects of COVID-19. What you do matters. What Vols does matters. And Vols has been helping all of us to do what matters for 35 years. So I hope that you'll take a minute, or maybe more than a minute, to think about what do you have to give. And if I can be helpful in that, I want to be helpful in that. But please, take a minute and think about what do you have to give? What could you do? And give that, do that. Thank you.
I am proud to present this honor to John S. Kiernan for his tireless service to VOLS. He has been a VOLS board member for 25 of VOLS's 35 years. He has served in every capacity, including as a very successful stint as chair of the board. I know that I had always looked to John, and still do, as a role model. He is a partner at Devovoice in Plimpton, having served as co-chair of its litigation department and as longstanding chair of its ethics committee. He previously served as president of the New York City Bar Association. Among his other notable and outstanding achievements, he is chair of the New York Chief Judge's Advisory Committee on Alternative Dispute Resolution, and he serves as a member of the New York State Permanent Commission on Access to Justice. He's currently serving on the New York COVID-19 Recovery Task Force headed by former Chief Judge Lippman. He was a member of the Chief Judge's Committee on Non-Lawyers and the Justice Gap. In addition, he is the board chair of Prisoners Legal Services of New York. And he has also served as co-chair of the Inner City Scholarship Fund, chair of the Justice Resource Center, chair of the New York City Bankruptcy Assistance Project, which he was a co-founder of, director of the City Bar Justice Center, and New York Alliance for Public Schools. These are just to name a few of his so many accomplishments, far too numerous to list here today. John is a graduate of Harvard and Harvard Law School, where he was editor of the Harvard Law Review. He also served as law clerk to Judge Mansfield of the Second Circuit Court of Appeals. I am delighted and thrilled to give this honor to John. Thank you.
Hi, all. Many thanks, Karen. And thanks to our extraordinary Chief Judge, Janet Difiore, and to all my longtime Vols friends, especially including Marsha Levy and the fantastic Vols staff. I'm virtually accepting your gift through the Biosphere now, and thanks for it. And congratulations to Brenna Devaney, who's played such an important role in advancing the legendary Skadden Arps Pro Bono program and in helping to develop the reach and contribution of the Association of Pro Bono Counsel for the entire legal community. And to our three special honorees, Betsy Plevin, Sheila Boston, and Kate Oberlees-O'Leary, who have unselfishly focused so much of their careers on helping others. In a period that sometimes feels as though it offers not much to celebrate, this actually feels like a good occasion to celebrate Vols and what is accomplished over the last 35 years. Vols was conceived based on the concept that New York City needed an organization specifically devoted to identifying opportunities for pro bono volunteers and effectively matching willing volunteers with needy clients. Vols started with the idea that the leverage promoted by developing a continuing core of volunteers through the firms could allow Vols' small but ferociously dedicated staff to foster a dramatically larger scale of legal assistance. Then, over the years, Vols added the concept that by expanding our staff's specialized subject matter expertise, we could provide volunteers with the kinds of substantive sounding board support that would help them feel better able to volunteer even when unfamiliar with the law governing their particular matter. It's been a really great model. Vols' work has never been more important than it is right now. The pandemic has increased the need for free legal services as the organizations that provide those services face the threat of deep funding cuts. And the agonizing reminders of racial injustice of the past few weeks remind us also of the pervasive linkage between racial injustice and economic injustice, and of the importance of combating both forms of injustice together, particularly using our legal skills, training, and energies, and our economic resources. Now, as Marsha mentioned, the original Vols concept reflected the vision of New York City Bar Association leaders. Chief among them, our friend of many decades, Lou Craco, father of another friend of many decades, Lou Craco Jr. To our great sadness, we lost Lou Sr., a career-long product of our valued partner firm Wilkie Farr & Gallagher, just before the originally scheduled date for this event a few months ago. Lou was a no-nonsense guy who saw problems and solved them. He saw the need for a Vols to improve the pro bono contributions of the great law firms and conceived of the Vols pledge of 30 hours per lawyer per year, to which more than 50 signatory law firms held themselves accountable for decades. His concept for Vols was equal parts pragmatic and aspirational, based on his can-do attitude about starting something new and his deep belief in lawyers' willingness to be generous if given the right opportunities. Lou's enormous legacy includes literally tens of thousands of New Yorkers who've received critical legal services relating to the essentials of their lives through the Vols institution he created. As a small token of the gratitude and affection of the Vols family and the New York legal community, let me virtually hand this star to the Craco family, several members of which have joined us for this event, with promises to get it into your actual hands soon. Thanks to all of you who have joined Vols for tonight's celebration and who support Vols' efforts year after year. And here's to another great 35 years for this small but mighty protector of people in crisis. Thanks very much.
Thank you, John, and congratulations. Before we go to our conversation with our three amazing women leaders in Pro Bono, we want to acknowledge that the past few months have been a time of loss for Vols and for this country. First, for Vols. In addition to losing Lou Craco, we lost another very special board member. Marsha Horowitz passed away on February 10th after a battle with pancreatic cancer. At the time of her death, she was a managing director at Rubenstein, where over a 41-year career she advised law firms, many of them here tonight, philanthropies, corporations, celebrities, on challenging and high-profile communications issues. Marsha was the only non-lawyer Vols board member, and we relied on her and her amazing team, not only for communication support, but for strategy. She is missed. Marsha is survived by her husband, Richard Cohn, two sons, Adam and Jared, daughter-in-law, Antonia, and grandson, Jace. For the family, please accept this honorary star. Let's all take a moment in honor of Lou and Marsha, but also more broadly, let's reflect on all of those who have lost their lives in just these past few months from the ravages of disease or the violence of inequity. Silence can sometimes speak more loudly than words.
I'm delighted to be back on our virtual stage. Please remember that it's not too late to text your pledge to Vols tonight. Though it sounds incredibly cliche, my current task is to introduce a brilliant social engineer who literally needs no introduction. My remarks, therefore, are not to introduce you to Michelle Coleman Mays, but to provide a point of common reflection to respect and honor the tremendous ways she has served the legal community with professional excellence and an unwavering commitment as a champion for women in diversity. So in that spirit, I will speak these truths about her incredible career. Michelle Coleman Mays currently serves as Vice President, General Counsel, and Secretary at the New York Public Library. In that role, which she has held since 2012, she serves as Chief Legal Officer and is responsible for guiding the library's legal strategy to enable it to achieve its mission. Before joining the New York Public Library, Michelle was Executive Vice President and General Counsel for the Allstate Corporation. Having previously served as General Counsel for Pitney Bowes, Inc., she also held leadership positions at Colgate-Palmolive Company and the Unisys Corporation. Earlier in her career, Michelle served at the U.S. Department of Justice as an Assistant United States Attorney in both Brooklyn and Detroit, rising to the Chief of the Civil Division in Detroit. She is a widely recognized leader in legal and philanthropic circles and has been the recipient of numerous professional honors, including the American Bar Association's Margaret Brent Award and the Minority Corporate Counsel Association Trailblazer Award. She is the co-author of a brilliant, inspiring book entitled Courageous Counsel: Conversations with Women General Counsel in the Fortune 500, which chronicles the rise of women to the role of general counsel. We are humbled and honored to have Michelle Coleman Mays with us this evening. Michelle, thank you, and I will now turn it over to you.
Cynthia, thank you for that gracious introduction. I want to get right into our conversation this evening with three stellar women leaders who are being recognized as women leaders in pro bono. These women have devoted their time, talent, and treasure to Vols. I'm talking about Betsy Plevin, who is a partner at Proskauer Rose and a former president of the New York City Bar. Betsy, where's that award?
I'll show it here. Thank you so much to Vols for this wonderful recognition. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Sheila Boston, a partner at Arnold and Porter K. Scholler, and the recently inducted president of the New York City Bar. Sheila, where's your award?
Mine looks just like Betsy's. I just want to thank Vols for this beautiful award, and especially Marsha Levy, who took the time to make sure that it arrived. All of our awards arrived for this evening.
And finally, but not least, Kate Oberlees O'Leary, who's the Global Executive Litigation Counsel at General Electric. Where's that award, Kate?
Thank you very much. And thank you to Marsha and Vols for this wonderful award.
I want to begin asking each of you why pro bono work is important to you as lawyers in this august profession. Why did you do it?
So should I start? Okay.
Please do that.
Well, I think that as these challenging times remind us, there is such a tremendous need to secure justice for everyone in our society. And as we're structured in our legal system, it's very hard to secure justice, even at the smallest level, if you will, without having legal counsel. And the people who need to secure economic justice, good housing, et cetera, need a lawyer to represent them as an advocate and pro bono counsel in particular, because these are people who cannot generally afford counsel. So that to me is why pro bono work is so important.
Well said. Sheila?
In my DNA, Michelle, I am the daughter of a Black Baptist preacher and a very loving and giving first lady of the church. And that's what I grew up with, seeing them helping others, especially those in need, the most vulnerable in our society, those who need a safety net. It's what I've learned, and it's what I've been charged to do.
Absolutely. And Kate, your views on this?
Yeah, well, I think like a lot of people, I decided to become a lawyer because I wanted to have a positive impact in the world and be able to use my skills to further the cause of justice. And I also strongly believe that with the privilege of being a lawyer comes the responsibility to do that work, to make the system better and fairer for everyone. And pro bono work is an important tool in terms of being able to try to accomplish that. And I also just love doing it. It's the one of the most satisfying parts of being a lawyer is the ability to use those skills to help individual people.
You know, it's interesting when I listen to some of the ways in which you describe this, what you think is an obligation, whether it's securing justice, the fact that it's in your DNA, and then Kate mentioned that you've always wanted to make a difference in the world. Yet each of you would have to say that every lawyer doesn't feel that way. They don't think it's their obligation to do this kind of work. What do you say to people like that? Sheila, are you speechless?
Okay, no, not at all. I'm sorry.
Go for it.
Two things that I especially emphasize. One is that, okay, if I can't convince you to join the choir and understand that it's a moral imperative, if I can't make you understand noblesse oblige, that to whom much is given, much is required, then daggone it, understand this. If you engage in pro bono work, it is legal services. You can gain additional legal skill sets. It's important experience. It can actually enhance your professional career. Secondly, I always encourage such people to find out what their clients are interested in when it comes to pro bono services, because you can actually work with clients or you can engage in pro bono work about which they are passionate, and therefore there's an ROI, quite frankly, return on investment. Okay, there is a bottom line business imperative to do it as well. So those are the two things I usually use to kind of convince people to join the choir.
What about you, Betsy?
Well, I also encourage people to do the kind of pro bono work that we can today with guidance from legal services organizations to get experience. That's another plus, if you will, to doing pro bono work for a young lawyer to have a chance to, first of all, have client relationships at a relatively junior age, and also to go to court and represent parties and have that wonderful feeling at the end of the day of success of obtaining, Social Security disability benefits for someone at need, who needs it. It's a great satisfaction element too.
Betsy, I want to stick with you because I would have to imagine that you encountered barriers when you decided you were going to do this type of work. Can you describe what you did encounter and how you didn't let that dissuade you?
Sure. And you're right. It was a long time ago when I was starting out in my practice. And at that time, there really weren't the kinds of legal organizations, legal services organizations like Vols, that really focused on pro bono, supporting pro bono work. So if you were, when I was a junior lawyer, wanted to do pro bono work, you were kind of on your own. And most of the needs were in areas of the law that you didn't have any experience with, social services, government benefits, things like that. Whereas today, it's much easier, I think, for lawyers without that experience to partner with organizations like Vols who make it their business to really mentor and train young lawyers who are interested in doing pro bono work. And it's just such a big difference to me.
And Sheila, I wonder when Betsy talks about the barriers she encountered, as a woman of color, I would venture to say that you would have encountered barriers, but they might have been a little different, some of them. How did you navigate that?
Indeed. So it cuts in different ways. So for example, as a woman of color, I will tell you, communities of color expect you to do pro bono work. Okay. They're like, you've made it. Now you have to help the rest of us. Okay. So keep that in mind. On the other hand, especially if you're in a big law firm, such as I am, there are certain expectations as well. We all know that you have billable hours and that you must complete a certain amount of billable hours. And even if you are encouraged to do non-billable work, such as pro bono work, there are these pressures of the balance of how much you're able to do. Because as a woman of color, let's face it, in this nation, especially Black women, they only earn about 67 cents to every dollar that a white male makes. So there are economic, let's say, considerations and possibly even sacrifices when you're at a firm, you're a woman of color, you're trying to make it, be successful, look great to your billable clients and your partners, but at the same time, you feel an obligation to help your community and to do pro bono work, which is non-billable. And let's not even mention, or I should mention, I should say, I'd be remiss if I didn't, unconscious biases that set in. There are some partners who may think that, well, you're supposed to do that kind of work because you're a woman of color. So there's an intersectionality, if you will, between race and gender, and a lot to navigate.
Well, did any of you ever feel that you were burning the candle at both ends, trying to do your pro bono work and your billable hours? And how did you obviously you didn't disintegrate because you're all sitting here very successful. So what did you do to maintain that equilibrium?
For me, it's a strong support.
Yeah. Let me go. Kate, go.
What I was going to say is I find that the pro bono work really energizes me. And to the extent that I feel like I'm burning out or getting fatigued with the other work that I'm doing, it's something that I'm very passionate about and something that feels like a way of connecting with the community in a way that's different from the day-to-day practice of law. So for me, they're complementary, and it's frankly something that's kept me going as a lawyer for many years in terms of continuing to stay fresh and feel excited about being a lawyer.
One of the things that sometimes happens when you're an inside counsel is people don't think inside lawyers have to do pro bono work. That's for the law firms and the big partners that make all the money. Let them give back to the community. Did you feel greater pressure to support pro bono initiatives internally? That is, was it expected of you because that's what women do, because we're consensus builders and we're nurturing? You've heard all the nice words.
I've thought a lot about this question. I think it's a really great question. I think for me personally, it's something I've always been passionate about. And luckily, I have managed to work at places where there was a lot of support for that. And I've had a lot of terrific mentors in legal services, starting with the judge I clerked for, Judge Morris Lasker, who was passionate about public service and really instilled that in me as well. And at GE, where I've been for the last 18 years, I've been really lucky to work with 3 general counsels, all of whom are dedicated and passionate about pro bono: Brackett Deniston, Alex Dimitrieff, and now most recently Mike Holston. So I feel like I've been very lucky institutionally to be part of a company that does care about giving back to the community in general. It's part of what all of our employees are expected to do in the communities in which they live. And lawyers have a special responsibility to do that because of our ethical obligations and because of our ability to assist in access to justice and rule of law around the world. So it's something that we're always trying to do more of. And I would say for me, the institutional imperative has been find a way for people all over the world to get involved in doing this work. So in that way, I think I've been very, very lucky.
So you've had allyship throughout your in-house career. That's it. Betsy, did you want to say something?
I just wanted to add that we can all make a contribution, not just a financial contribution, of course, which is helpful, but and should be on everybody's list. But we can all be advocates for legal services for people in need, and in our talk and in our walk. Even if you're not doing a lot of it, you can be an advocate for it, which is important too.
Well, I would imagine that the 3 of you are role models, and if other people see how successful you've been in accomplishing all the things you do, including the contributions you've made to an organization like Vols, they would say, well, if she can do it, I can do it. Isn't that what you hope the message is?
I hope so, yeah.
Absolutely.
So let's switch gears a minute. There has been a tendency to separate pro bono from diversity and inclusion, as though they're being treated as separate initiatives. Why does that miss the mark, and you're not really taking an opportunity to bring the 2 together to get more momentum? Why is that a mistake to see them as separate? Kate or Betsy, either one.
I would love to address this. I had the privilege earlier this month of participating in the summit that Vols put together on the intersection between pro bono and diversity, equity, and inclusion. And it was a really wonderful program that focused a lot on the importance of cultural competence. And I think that that's important as we bring our legal skills to try to address problems in the world, to remember that a lot of times how we do things is as important as what we do. And the need to, as lawyers, come at the task of pro bono with a sense of humility, empathy, and really intentional listening. Often we're serving communities that may not be similar to the communities that we came from. We're the experts on legal service, but the clients are the experts on their own lives, their own experience, their own goals, and how they see the world. And just like we would with any paying client, it's incumbent on us as lawyers to see the world from our client's perspective. And I think that also has great benefits for trying to create organizations that really have a demonstrated commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion, and that make everyone feel comfortable and everyone feel like they're an important part of the firm or the company. So I think there's so much to be learned through pro bono about humility, about cultural competence, learning about communities that are different from ours. And I think that also promotes and benefits our diversity efforts.
It sounds like what you're saying is you get as much as you give.
Absolutely. I feel like I get far more than I give. And I tell people that all the time in terms of trying to inspire people to do pro bono. It not only makes you a better lawyer, it makes you a better person. And I think makes your legal practice more satisfying.
Sheila, you want to add anything?
I would agree. I mean, there is a definite intersection if you just look at the statistics. Black and brown communities are disproportionately a part of those at the poverty line and under. whether it's high unemployment, whether it is having the most difficult or having excessive health conditions, bad health conditions at that, the highest mortality rates, disproportionately these various factors affect brown and black communities more so. And therefore, when you do good, when you do pro bono work, more often than not, you are helping also with racial inequities as well. So it's very important. Cultural competency, thank you, Kate, that is extremely important. That's why it's also important we have lawyers who speak different languages so that we can service communities that may not speak English. All of this comes into play, but race and economics throughout our history, there's definitely an intersection, and they each influence one another.
You know, it's funny, Betsy, I think that's what you were saying at the outset about when you started doing this, you couldn't have turned to a sophisticated organization like Vols to get direction and training on cultural competencies or bias. You had to figure it out on your own.
That's true.
And now that's not the case.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right.
Let me switch to this question. We're going to do just two more questions, so I try to keep us on time and don't get into demerits. So recent events have brought to the forefront racial and economic disparities in this country in living color, no pun intended. We see that the novel coronavirus has impacted communities of color, not just in healthcare outcomes, but also in unemployment, who frontline workers are, and small businesses just struggling to survive. And of course, then you have the response to the homicide of George Floyd that has surfaced these chronic issues even more starkly. What would the three of you say to the legal profession, the legal community, about the role it should and can play in addressing these inequities? Kate, you want to begin?
Sure. I think lawyers, especially at this time, have an obligation to use their privilege and their knowledge to further the cause of justice in the world by doing pro bono work, by getting involved in changing unfair laws and policies, and by doing whatever they can to improve access to justice. I think it's also very important that we educate ourselves. If you have colleagues who don't understand what's going on, who are uncomfortable with some of the topics that are being raised, this is a time when we all have to be willing to get uncomfortable and to talk about difficult issues with people, because let's face it, as lawyers, we are inherently in a position of privilege, and to understand what that privilege is, how it has shaped our lives, and how it impacts other people who are not in that same position of privilege, and to do whatever we can to try to move things along. And if people don't feel like they have the ability or the time to do pro bono work right now, I also feel perfectly comfortable telling people it's okay to write a check, right? So, because there's a lot of great legal services organizations out there, in particular Vols, but others as well, where you can put your financial resources to good use if you just don't feel like you have the capacity to get personally involved right now. But I do encourage people to get personally involved, because not only can you change someone else's life, but you'll change your life.
Betsy, you want to add to that? You have anything?
Sure, absolutely. I mean, I think lawyers have the skill and ability and as Kate said, the privilege to be part of, and historically have been part of, addressing inequities in our society, and importantly, to develop the legal strategies that will help correct these inequities that have been so dramatically brought to our attention yet again. And working both as lawyers, therefore, and thinking about these issues and how to address them, and also playing a role as community leaders, which lawyers have often done, is also an important part of being an advocate at this stage of our civilization, if you will.
Absolutely. Sheila?
Lawyers are problem solvers.
Yeah, we are.
Lawyers are problem solvers. That's what we have to do. We should be involved with this. I feel like our nation is at a crossroads, quite frankly. This is the time where we decide in which direction we are going to go. Are we really about access to justice? Are we really about fairness? And if so, the lawyers in particular have to dive in. Throughout history, we have made dramatic strides for this nation. Take Brown versus Board of Education as a prime example. We actually served as not just lawyers, but, and I know some people cringe about this, but to some degree, social engineers, okay? We can help this country on its path to salvation so that we have less of a racial divide, less of an economic divide, and so that we can all actually have life, liberty, the pursuit of happiness. Lawyers are crucial in this, and legal organizations such as Vols play a very vital role in making sure that we go on that right road, the path to access to justice.
So all I need to do is clone the three of you because we absolutely need more lawyers who think and do like you, right? You don't have to answer that question. So I'm going to ask you this final question, which is assume that you are writing a chapter in your memoir that chronicles your pro bono service. What is the title of that chapter or the key message in that chapter? Betsy, I'll start with you.
My title is So Much More to Do.
Absolutely. Sheila.
To whom much is given, much is required. And I would hope that they say that Sheila did the best with what she had and that she not only talked the talk, but walked the walk.
Kate.
Echoing what Brenna said earlier about the moral arc of the universe bending towards justice, which of course was a famous quote from Dr. King, I would call the chapter Bending the Arc. And I'm also thinking about what Eric Holder said a few years ago with reference to that quote. And he essentially said, if the arc of the universe bends towards justice, it's because people are pulling it. And that is the work that remains to be done and the work in which we are engaged and the work that I'm proud to be part of.
Well, it is very clear to me why you've been selected to be honorees. So we want to thank you for being woke, as the young people would say. But more importantly, I want to thank you for doing the necessary work. Or to quote Marsha, thank you for always raising your hands. You have our admiration. You have our gratitude. Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle.
Thank you.
And all of you.
Thank you.
Please join me in extending a virtual round of applause for our amazing honorees and our incredible moderator for their insightful perspective and their deep commitment to amplifying the significance of pro bono and diversity. Thank you so much. As we prepare to close the evening and before turning it back to Marsha, I'd like to thank all of the amazing contributors who've already accepted our giving challenge and moved that fundometer. For those who've not yet texted to give, it's not too late to honor Vols with your contribution tonight. Please text 970-840-9000. Let's get this done for Vols in honor of its 35th anniversary serving the community. Before I leave our virtual stage for the evening, I'd like to wish our Executive Director, Marsha Levy, a very happy birthday. Marsha, thank you for your amazing leadership and for spending your birthday with us. Now back to you.
Thank you, Cynthia. Thank you and congratulations to our awardees, our honorees, to the small businesses who spoke about their work. And by the way, my birthday present tonight is I got Aisha. And I'm sorry I can't support Ramona because I can't wear a onesie, but I hope all of you will support our small business communities. And you may see that I've got a birthday cake. Thank you to those who got this for me. It's the famous donut cake, so I'm donating while you all have been donating. And I'm excited to be here and to blow out my candles and to make a wish. I know you're not supposed to say your wish, but my wish is that we all do better in the months to come, in the years to come, and that we continue to work together the way that we always have. Thank you so much.